So this is actually our 12th lesson in our staff development curriculum training. So we're really blazing through the content, which is really great. Today I want to talk about event planning. So represented in this room are the people who are either directly or indirectly responsible for hundreds and hundreds of Midtown events that have happened in our church history. It may even be closer to 4 digits, to thousands. I look through our calendar. We do, every single year we do, just tons of Serve the City events. We do student groups every week, student groups volunteer appreciation, student group parent lunches, Kid Town events, Kid Town volunteer appreciation, college send-off, college summer rhythms, first week, member meetings, connect lunches, connect outings, basic trainings, family milestones, coaching dinners, pastor retreat, staff retreat, coaching retreat, residency send-offs, Sunday classes, Super Bowl parties, Sunday gatherings, Sundays in the park, staff dinner, pastor's dinner, go camp, new member dinner, fall member kickoff. And I was just like, I don't need to keep looking at the calendar because I think I could actually prove to you we do tons of events as a part of what we do as a church. So I thought it'd be good for once a year we just touch base on what are our trainings we have done regarding running an event for here as a part of Midtown for our church, and try to consolidate all of that information, all of those principles, all of those tips, all of those trainings together. And so this actually won't be, fully comprehensive. These are the only things we would ever care about when running a Midtown event. But I did want to just collect them, and so as we have, go along through the year, we'll have a place that we can continue to place truisms, and we'll continue to revisit these ideas and train on an annual basis. That's kind of the idea of what we're doing today. So I kind of broke it down into 3 phases that are involved with each event. We've got pre-event, the event, and then post-event phases. And I wanted to break down each of them and provide some tips. Now I just want to say off the front, this is just a series of facts and principles. I don't have stories, I don't have jokes, I don't have really anything that would, it's very dense information. So I just want to say, bear with me, it will be a lot, but it's because we've done a lot of trainings and teachings on this topic. So in order to cover it, it will feel a little dense. And so first, pre-event phase. So this is the planning and preparation. Tip number 1, ask clarifying questions before you start planning. So I've got 3 questions that I want you to ask before you even begin to plan your event. Question number 1, why are we doing this event? What is the goal? What will be accomplished by this event? 2, how many people are we expecting to feed and participate? And 3, what are my planning milestones? I want you to put down specific dates on when things need to be done by. So it's when do we need to have our brainstorm meeting? When do we need to have signups available? When do we need to have a write-up and be able to delegate roles to people? What are 5 to 10 key timeline items that will help us keep our team on track and prevent us from being super rushed at the end? And I want you to actually answer them. Actually write the answer down, because these are clarifying answers, clarifying questions that will help guide you throughout the planning process that you will keep referencing back to while you're getting into the details. Tip number 2, I want you to envision the environment. Just close your eyes and put yourself in the space that you are planning for. How will we make the environment feel right? What logistical issues does the building or venue or location present? Actually walk up in an imaginary sense, like a new person. Where did I park? Did I know where to walk? What did I know before the event began? Did anybody need to tell me anything or tell me where to go? Am I comfortable? Am I greeted? Do I have a drink in my hand? Is it hot? Is it cold? What am I listening to? Where do I throw my gums away? All of the most important questions that we all answer when walking up to an event, of course. Actually immerse yourself in the environment and allow it to dictate your planning. College folks can chime in and correct me for what I'm misunderstanding, but they actually, for spring break, they immerse themselves in what the week before the event leading up to it looks like. And so in their planning meetings, 5, 6, 7 times, 8 times throughout the planning process, they'll say, okay, Monday before we leave, what's everybody doing? And then they'll say, all right, here's the things that we need to do. We need to call the hotel, we need to call the, the different sites. All right, Tuesday, what do we need to do? Wednesday, Thursday, we need to get the U-Haul. Friday, we need to get vans. Okay, if we need to get vans, who's picking them up? Van drivers, okay? Do they know they need to be here at that time? Okay, I need to make sure to get the word out. And so they just keep touching base on that week, on what they're going to be doing that day, and it keeps they fill in more details, and it dictates. All right, so now 3 months out, 5 months out, where we are now, it helps me know what do I need to start doing today so I can be ready for that moment in time. So by the time they go through this, 8 times over the course of their planning, they're able to just say that, oh wow, I didn't realize I needed to make sure people needed to know this. It is a very helpful principle, very helpful tip. Tip number 3, and this kind of seems obvious, but I wanted to touch base on it because it can be an oversight. The reality is you will struggle with this because, simply put, you struggle with the curse of knowledge. You cannot remember what it's like to not know all of the information that you already know as the event planner who knows all of the details for the event. And so for me, for us, we're trying to hone in on communicating well. One of this means you need to set dates far in advance. This is why as a church, every February, our pastors get together and we try to map out dates 12 months in advance, simply because we want to get it on people's calendars. As we're getting older, life gets busier and busier, and we want to make sure that we're able to get those dates out in advance as far as we can. This also means dates in advance. Also means sending reminders. I personally, depending on the event, I personally like to send out reminders 1 month out, 1 week out, or 1 day out. You don't need to do it that way, but the principle here is, in order to ensure participation, you need to keep it on people's radars. Use technology. So there's different services to be able to keep this on people's radar. So for internal staff events, what I would like for us to do is utilize our staff calendar system. So if it's a small event with just a few people, using our Midtown calendar allows us to see people's availability. It streamlines the whole process. If it's a large event, we can even still use Midtown staff calendars rather than using e-bites, which can be kind of convoluted. Like if you're getting too many e-bites, it gets confusing on how to keep it clear. And so the events that you can put on our staff calendars have the ability to RSVP on them. You can put in the notes section all the details for the event. I think it would be a lot cleaner for our internal use. External use, if you're involving an event with other people, you might have to use e-bites, which is fine, but I just wanted to mention that for internal purposes. The other service that I want to, a pro tip for e-bites. Never use staff@midtowncolumbia.com when sending an e-bite. What happens is all of us get emailed the exact same unique link, and so when one person clicks that unique link, it updates the RSVP for that one link. What you're actually supposed to do is put everybody's email address. That way we all get a different link when we click on, we can RSVP for our own personal invitation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I've seen that happen regularly, so make sure to communicate that out for any event that you are delegating to someone to run an e-bite for you. Lastly, for meetings regarding those outside of this office, I recommend a service called Doodle. It's a pretty convenient service. All you have to do is set a series of options for times, and people are able to click which ones they're able to do. And that way, when you get everybody's submission, you can just pick which time works for everyone. I would pick July 22nd because it works for all these people. That's just me. Maybe you don't want Emma to come to us, so July 27th, we'll do that. Just pick a time that works for everyone. Way simpler than going through email trying to correspond a time that way. Lastly, I want us to make sure to put in comms requests in advance. If you want promotional stuff, you need to have it in 8 weeks in advance. If you want to do social media recaps, that's 2 weeks in advance. Web graphic or slide is a week in advance. You need to make sure that They have your event information and date to be able to put it on the chair backs, to be able to get words out to people. I just want us to utilize our church-wide systems of communication so we can communicate well to all of our people. Cool. Make sense? Next tip, delegate. If you are the event coordinator, do not put yourself in a position where you are unable or unavailable to make decisions the day of the event. So that means you probably can't be grilling burgers if there's 10 other things going on because you're solely focused on one item, and you need to be able to be looking at the entire event, big picture, because you are in charge. If you forget to purchase something, you are not the one to run to Walmart to go get it. You need to have a runner in place for this. So make sure to distribute roles, give them accurate timelines and what they need to accomplish, and what are their responsibilities for the day of, and what aspects of the event are they in charge of. Because during the event, you cannot be running around trying to keep the event going and figuring out details day of. I'm sure you've heard this before. I like this analogy, but events are like cake. So I'm going to show you a couple slides here. Tell me what you notice about this cake.
Colors.
Pretty flowers, pretty colors. Okay, what do you notice about this cake?
Helmets. Top.
Clemson, Carolina, teams, helmets, exactly, totally. What about this cake?
That's not a cake.
That's a Lego.
Yeah, pretty amazing. Blown away. Look at all the details. It's a very, 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 very fun cake. There are two aspects to cake. There's the inside, and then there's the icing on top. Both are incredibly important, but one we just naturally notice more than the others. And both are very important, but the reality is nobody notices the cake inside unless it gets messed up. If you are well versed in the kitchen, you know baking is kind of like science. It's in order to make the cake part, it is an exact amount of measurements with exact ingredients following exact instructions. It is not super complicated to bake a cake. Those can be given out with exacting standards and clear instructions. The things that people notice, that's art. That's actually a lot more difficult to delegate. And those are the things that people notice. I think you'll see the analogy with events. If you're going to delegate well to bake a cake, give exacting standards and instructions, and they can make a pretty good cake. This is going to free you up to focus on the icing, the stuff that people actually walk away remembering the event. Does it kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Now we're getting into the event phase. This is more troubleshooting. So when it is event day, there's going to be things that change. You're going to have to come up with new plans and compromises, and there can be new ideas that are presented and new decisions that need to be made. And so the starting point for all this is tip number one. We kind of touched on it before, but think like a new person. Where do I go? What do I do first thing? Who should I talk to? Do I need to find out information? Do I need to register? I'm a little early. Does it feel like I'm supposed to be here? What should I do until the event starts? Where's the bathroom? As best as you can, look at everything not as yourself, but as someone walking up to the event for the first time. Tip number two, find the landmines. So what are the aspects of our event that we will need to do a plan B in case something goes wrong? What is the most likely thing to go wrong that we'll have to make a new plan for? This is Jay's idea, but to avoid landmines, his rule is anything you can take care of before the event, you must do it. The only things that you do the day of the event are things that you were not able to do, that were impossible to do before that day. A recurring issue amongst all of us, and really humanity in general, is you think things take less time than they actually do. So the day of the event, I need to do these 3 things, and all of a sudden you realize I'm not able to accomplish that, and now we have to make compromises and not do things we were planning to do simply because you did not leave yourself enough time to be able to accomplish what our plan was. Tip number 3, find the right feel. you want your people to feel comfortable. So things like having music, find a playlist with upbeat 90s songs because everybody knows them, rather than using the radio or songs that you need to censor. Have music in different areas, not just outside or inside, but both. Make side-by-side fun. That is a great way to get to know someone. Have games. Don't do things alone. Make sure you put your people up on, hey, we're the 4th. Come on in to our game. I'm flipping burgers. Come help me with that. Include kids in the planning if applicable. Don't let kids be the reason why someone can't come to an event or why someone has to leave early. So have activities that they can do themselves, or at least make sure you're thinking through childcare. Think about what things people would enjoy. What would you enjoy? If it's cold, having a fire and having s'mores. People love that. You love that. If it's hot, have a big fan with big misters, or have some great seats, or swings, or whatever you think that would be a comfy, enjoyable time. If you hate bugs, like I do, call Mosquito Joe. That way I can actually be outside and not miserable, or have tiki torches or something like that. Lastly, tip number 4, have some special touches. Like we said before about the cake, people perceive quality of an event based on the icing on top. That is the only way that somebody will walk away being like, this event was amazing. It's these special touches. It can be a fine event, but if you want it to be, I'm walking away and I perceive this as great, there has to be special touches. And I have an example for you, and I hope it works.
Oh gosh.
Let me find the cursor. Oh, I'm backwards. Nobody move. There you go.
It's not funny. Lizards get overgrown and overpopulated. They make like rabbits. You don't want them in your house if you want them.
Okay, so this was at Oakland's 3rd birthday party. I gotta tell you, I've been to many children's birthday parties in the past. And when I come home and Megan's like, hey, how'd the party go? I was like, all right, well, we got there and we stayed a little bit and then we left after a little bit. And that's usually the level of details that I'll come away with them. But when me and Gus got home from Oakland's 3rd birthday party, there was no shortage of details that we were so excited to tell Meg and Julie. And it's because of Landon and the special planning that he had. He was led these 3-year-olds on a scavenger hunt or expedition as a Australian tour guide, and it really was just an amazing moment in time in my life. I just gotta tell you that it really did make a huge impression on me because people remember special touches. They matter.
Chris said it's possible that I'm not trying hard enough as a dad.
Oh, there's room.
That was in the middle of the way to do it. There's a chance.
It just clicked in my brain. It was like, okay, I haven't made it. You guys.
I'm not at the ceiling quite. There's a chance that I don't try hard enough.
The special touches matter, and only leaders can provide them. So, plan an intentional drink to have at your event, or burgers are great, but that's not what people walk away remembering. But a made-to-order cocktail people would remember. Giving kids a present upon arrival will immediately make them love wherever they are at. So give them some bubbles or little toys or games. Give them some chalk. Have a slip and slide or a bounce house. When kids are having fun, that means parents can actually enjoy the event. So have some special touches. All right, last post-event phase. So just what you do to close the book on this event. Have an exit strategy. So I like this truism. The event is not over until it looks like it never happened. So make sure to have a plan to clean up afterwards. If you are bringing in hay bales for Easter, don't just leave them in Barnwell. If you have extra food at an event, don't just put 90 hot dog buns in our office break room. We don't need 90 hot dog buns. Have an exit strategy. Tip number 2, document everything. In order to plan an event, there's just documents galore that you've got so many planning details that you've been working on. Make sure they're all collected together in a Google folder, and that all the people involved in the event, including your supervisor, has access to that Google folder. This is not only helpful for you to stay organized, but future you and future us as a church. Some things that you can document are just the instructions you delegated to people. That will be incredibly helpful. All the cake baking details that you delegated. Have written checklists of tasks broken down by roles. Budget, what needs to be purchased, in what quantities and from what stores. What do we already own now, so we don't need to purchase them in the future. What will the total cost of our event be? Put some deadlines for planning milestones. Put your personal notes on how the event went. What do you think we need to improve next time? Make sure to write all of that down, because future you will not remember it. Conduct informal or formal surveys to collect people's feedback after the event. So gathering this information will allow you for next time for the event that you're conducting to be even better than it was this year. So you don't want all this information to be scattered, because you actually want your brain to be able to move on to something else. And then when it comes time to do this event next year, just dust off this Google Drive folder and you've got all the information there for you. And so that way you'll be able to lead out the event, an even better event, using less effort. Don't assume that future you will remember. There's like a 1% chance that is the case. It is way more likely that you are going to be unable to remember all of those details. Don't assume some of this stuff is common sense. It probably isn't. Again, you have the curse of knowledge. Write it all down. It could only help you and help others. Lastly, know when to celebrate. So know when to pop the champagne. So revisit the first question that we asked at the very beginning of this training. Why are we doing this event? What is the goal? What are we hoping to see accomplished? If we have accomplished that, then there's reason to celebrate. No matter what went wrong, there's reason to celebrate if we accomplish what we were set out to, what we're trying to do. Share this with the rest of staff. Celebrate it at our office celebration lunches. Make sure to email out to all of your volunteers and thanking them and show them, here's how God used this event. Don't solely be focused on all the ways we need to improve on this event next time. That is very important, and it is wrong for us not to ask that question, but I believe it is equally wrong not to recognize what went really well and how God used the event and how what we were set out to accomplish through the event was done. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for listening.